Welcome to Stories of My Life, Bill Quackenbush. I'm really grateful that you joined me. I hope that you will press that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. That would be great. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, brought me some sugar, basically. My mouth gets dry when I'm talking so much. I'm like, need something. So, this is the reason why I have a little bit extra in my belly there. If I didn't have this, I'd look like Hercules. Just kidding. But anyway, yeah. So why do I keep drinking it? Well, because it reminds me of my childhood. This is not the Coke that you usually would get at the store. Here's a little white label. I'm just advertising for Coke for free. This is Mexican Coke, and I absolutely love it. It's in a glass bottle. Has no high fructose corn syrup. Yeah, it's got sugar, obviously, which is not good, but high fructose corn syrup is terrible. Anyway, Mexican Coke. Love this stuff because it tastes like Coke did when I was a kid. And I guess that's kind of appropriate because we're talking about when I was a kid. And this has always been my favorite drink. Although I didn't drink it probably as much as I did later in life. I drank too much of it. I had to lose some weight. And I did. And I'm back on it a little bit, but not as much as I was. Still, be better if I just stopped drinking it altogether, but I love it. I do love it. So anyway, there you go. You're welcome, Coke. I'm not trying to really advertise for them, but I'm explaining why I've got something to drink. And that's what it is. But we were talking about my childhood around the 5-year-old age in Gastonia, North Carolina. A lot of fun. A lot of fun during those years. Had a couple cats named Smokey and Samantha. They were strays. They wandered in, and they became my cats for quite some time until one day they were gone. But I had them for quite a while. Fed them, and they stuck around. And they were pretty cool. So, which later on in life I named another couple, Smokey and Samantha, that I had when my kids were little. Anyway, that's another story. But around that time is a lot of cool stuff because you did have a lot more freedom when you were that young, and during that period in this country, people were a lot freer. Kids. It wasn't until later when we found out that it wasn't such a good idea because of things that happened to kids, like what happened to me. So, yeah, needed to be more of a balance. But in the meantime, I was having a blast. I loved being outside. And I never forget, my mom bought me some jean shorts. She didn't have jean shorts, so she went and got some. I didn't get a lot when I was a kid, when it came to clothes and stuff like that. We didn't have a lot of money, for one. But at this point, she had bought me some shorts. Jean shorts. And I had some white jean shorts, and they were short. They were came down to about not even quite mid-thigh. So for this day and age, that might not be the in style, but it was then. Very much so. And I love those shorts. Jean shorts. White. Well, white, as it turned out, was not great because I was not old enough to put a couple things together, and I would always go exploring. And I found this, it looked like a creek, but it was filled with just mud completely. And I didn't know that it was filled up like that, right? So I'm going down, walking in it with my feet just trying to get them out. I mean, really. And then all of a sudden, boom, it went deep. And it went up to my waist. Yeah. So, you can imagine. When I got out of there, climbed out, I barely made it out. When I got out of there, my white shorts were, well, if you know anything about North Carolina and South Carolina, the soil is clay. So all that mud was just clay. Yeah. Orange clay. And so when I got out of there, I went home, my mom, the look on her face, yeah, you could imagine. I didn't get in trouble. I got fussed at. But she would never buy anything white for me again. So that was a lesson for both of us. Yeah, they were never white again. Didn't matter how much she bleached them. It was going to keep that orangey tint. You know, just a little bit like a dirty white. And not really good dirty white. It was not good. But I still wore them because I like the shorts. But yeah, no, but they were basically ruined. Okay, so, but that's the thing, you know, when you're little back then, you went exploring. Your life was about exploring things, especially boys. Boys love to go and explore. And I had this friend that was in that same cul-de-sac. You know, our street went down into a little circle. At the end of that circle was a friend who we thought up we were going to make some potion. I don't know what it was for, but we're trying to make it toxic, basically, and we did. It was toxic. It had bleach in it. It had antifreeze. I mean, it was disgusting, but it was a lot. It was filled up to about as high as my desk here, in a barrel, and it was a lot of chemicals. And I remember this now. I don't know why, but we actually we peed into the concoction that we came up with. I don't know why. I don't know what we were going to do with it. Because as it turned out, we never did anything with it. It would just sat there until I think his parents ended up dumping it somewhere or something. But you know, when you're a kid, you're exploring. You're just trying to figure things out. We don't do that. I mean, the kids just don't do that anymore so much. Unless you live out in the middle of the country, you know, I mean, you just don't do that. Out in the country, you know, if you live on a ranch or a farm, you know, excuse me, sniffing and allergies. But if you do live out there, you may do that kind of stuff. But for most kids, you know, live in the city and stuff, that went away quite a long time ago. And that's sad in many ways. It's hard to find a good, happy medium where your kids are safe, but yet they are free enough to explore and figure a lot of things out for themselves. just by trying things. Because most of the time it won't be anything dangerous necessarily, but that's why you have to have guardrails, right? So they don't do anything really stupid. But I also had a neighbor that helped me a lot. It's funny, when I was that age and I got a bike, okay? I think it was for Christmas. And it had training wheels, and I was riding around with the training wheels, and then Derek told me, you need to learn how to ride. So here I was. My brother was holding the handlebars in the back, and my brother was like me. He was very fast. He could run. So I would be on the bike, and he'd run and just push me off. And I'm like, boom, hit the pavement, you know. I didn't know what I was doing, but we did that several times until I was beat up enough. Who said it's time to quit? And back in those days, nobody would have even thought about a helmet. Nobody had helmets. So you fell, you just got hurt. You tore your jeans, you tore your shirt, whatever. You just did. Not a big deal, really. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. But it hurt, and it wasn't fun. But then my other friend, Jimmy, his name was Jimmy, and his family were really nice people. Well, Jimmy, he says, oh, I can teach you how to ride. I'm like, really? He says, yeah, but let's don't do it on the pavement. Let's do it on the grass. And his yard wasn't like soft grass, and it wasn't deep, so you could definitely ride on it. And I'm like, okay. And he held on to the back, and I would pedal, and he kept holding right there until I got a balance, and I started pedaling. And I was pedaling by myself. And then I went off of the grass onto the road, and I took off. And I kept going. I rode down this really big hill and back up. I went to parts of the neighborhood I'd never even seen before. And eventually I came back and gave him his bike back, because it was his bike. But my friend, who was right at my age, he found the easiest, best way to teach me how to ride my bike. And he did it just like that. That was interesting to me. His whole way of teaching it was different. And he's a little kid like me. And I picked it up so fast and took off, and I loved riding. From that point on, I rode bikes a lot. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. And then we would be around, and his family, he had a older brother, and his friend, they played basketball. They were really, really good, and they were raising some money somehow, like tickets to see them do tricks. And so people did, and they made some money for entertainment, right? And it was fun. We had a good time, but it was a neighborhood thing. Like I said, everybody basically knew everybody. If you had one strange neighbor, everybody knew they were strange and just said, oh, don't bother them. I mean, it's just the way it was. It's a great little neighborhood. And then my mom and my dad sat us all down and said that they were separating, getting a divorce. That was hard. It was really hard. And I didn't understand why, but my father took my two brothers They went to live with him, and I stayed with my mom. And I always thought to myself, well, I can't leave my mom. My mom needs help. I was the youngest. I was little. And then my dad, to try to spend time with me, we joined this thing called Y Indian Guides. It was something through the YMCA. And it was like Boy Scouts, except it was Indians, We made moccasins and, stuff like that. Headband with the feather, And it was cool. We hung out with other dads and their kids. And that lasted for a little while. And then my dad said, hey, instead of going to the meeting tonight, I wanted to take you out to dinner. So he took me out to dinner, and he told me that he was moving. That he and my brothers were going to move to Charleston. And that he'd have me visit him. That's really all I remember about that conversation. I think I was just like out of it. And for a long time, it hurt. Not just that he left, my mom, that they split up. And it was mutual. Believe me, they have their own story to tell, but it hurt that he, in my mind, I'm a 7-year-old kid at this time, right? And he wants to take my brother. So in my mind, as a 7-year-old, I'm thinking, why doesn't he want me? I mean, I know I should have stayed with my mom. I was younger. And I know that's what he said his reason was. I mean, my next brother up is like, almost about 3 years older than me, I guess. 2.5, 3. And then my next brother up is 18 months older than my other brother. So there were some years between us. So I know my dad felt like, well, these kids can take care of themselves. He wouldn't have to do much. Whereas he probably thought I would need more. And honestly, it was better. In my mind, even today, I can tell you that I'm glad that I was left with my mom because of what my future would hold. And I love my dad. Let me just say that. I love my dad so very much, and I have a lot of things that I absolutely respect him for and love him for. He's different than me. We're different. And it took a long time, though, as a kid to understand any of this stuff. Why he didn't want me. And to this day, I could probably say, well, I still don't exactly understand it. But, excuse me, I'm sure it was all about the age in many ways. I'm pretty sure that's because he felt like he wanted to be free enough. He wanted kids, but he wanted to be free enough so that he didn't have to babysit, basically. That they could be on their own at home. He could wanted to do, and leave them at home. Not have to worry, If with me, then he would be more worried. But he split 3 brothers up. And I love my brothers. We have some funny stories where my oldest brother, he had all these little stuffed animals, and there's some that were like signs, like a yield sign, a stop sign, all this different stuff. And he had an owl, and he's so funny, and there's no way I always try to tell the story to people and explain it. Because it was really funny, especially to a little kid. It was very funny, but it doesn't sound funny when I'm telling it, so I'm not sure if I'm going to go through all that with you. But me and my other brother, we would sneak into his room, to my oldest, because he had his own room, and he would put on this show for us at night, while we were supposed to actually be in bed going to sleep. And it was hilarious. We just laughed so much, and we had so much fun. And there was a time when my 2 brothers got into a fight, and once we used to go to Winding. I'm saying Winding, guys, because I'm thinking of the thing. We used to go to Cherokee, and we had these long wooden spears with the little rubber point thingy at the end of it. Well, my oldest brother whacked the spear against my other brother's leg. It broke into pieces, and he picked up a piece and he actually stabbed my oldest brother's arm. And I'm running back to my mom. And she's on the phone, not wanting to be bothered. And I'm like, he's bleeding. And she's like, I gotta go. And she ran and then they rushed him over to the hospital. I mean, he was fine, but it was really dramatic, especially for kids. And I know my brother felt terrible about him doing that. But it was an anger thing. See, all of us kids at one point or another had anger issues, which my father had, which he eventually had dealt with too. And it's funny because if you knew him today, you would say that's not possible, the same person. But it is. So we all did. And I won't go into all those stories, but not now. I can go into mine later. Well, excuse me. So, and playing games outside and doing all this stuff, I was always with my brothers, especially my brother who was in the same room. We were closer in a lot of ways because we shared a room. And then they're gone. I didn't just lose my dad, I lost my brothers. See. Oh, gosh. You'll have to get used to the fact that I'm an emotional person. And even looking back, even though it has nothing to do with my life today, well, not so directly, but it hurts. Yeah, it hurts. I don't know, my dad probably never really understood how much it hurts. First, that he didn't want me. Second, that he took my brothers away from me. So, tough times. Tough times. But then, my mom, had a boyfriend that came up sometime later, and eventually they got married. And trying to think if I don't want to miss anything in between, really, but because that's pretty much it for that. But my mom got remarried to my stepfather, Joe. And I was 9 years old. And they got married. And so that's where I'll have to end it for today. So, but please, come back and hear my next story, because a lot of things happened, and 9 years old is another long period in my life where things happened. A lot of things happened during that time, and I will be happy to share all that with you. So please click that like button. Don't forget, okay? Tell people about the podcast, and subscribe. Make sure your friends remember to like and subscribe. Let's get this thing going. I got a lot of stories to tell, and I would like to, have discussion at some point about a lot of these things. That's what it's leading to. Eventually, the chapters will end, and it will be more about, let's talk about life and the good and the bad, even the decisions of what I've made. You'll know already what I've gone through. You'll know my mistakes. You'll know a lot of things that are very personal, and I'm doing that in person. On purpose. I can't even talk. I'm doing that on purpose because I want it to be real, and I want to be able to have real discussion. People can tell me I'm full of it. They can say I made some really stupid decisions, which I've made stupid decisions. I think we all have at some point. Maybe I've made more than you. We'll see. I'm getting used to doing this to a microphone. Usually when I'm telling my stories to people, they're with me. Okay? Like, I drive Uber and Lyft. I tell people stories all the time. Or they're talking and we start talking, and then all of a sudden I have a story that relates to something they're going through. I tell them about it. Right? And so I'm used to bouncing things off of other people at the same time. I'm telling stories. So it's a little bit different for me, and I'm trying to get used to that. All my life, my work has been, just about people, doing things that I hoped would help people. All right? So that's what it's all about for me. And this isn't a thing to talk about anything like how good I am, believe me, because I'm going to be telling you some whopper mistakes. Okay? I want to be real, because I would like to have real discussion. At some point, that's what this will turn into. And I'm going to figure out how to do all that, or we can talk. But we got a while. But I really hope that people will listen to all of them, so you'll get to know me very well. So, in the meantime, I'm going to give one advertisement for myself, okay? Besides the podcast. I am a licensed massage therapist, and I am a personal trainer. I do training out of my home and massage out of my home, or I can travel to the other person. Sometimes I do that. It's a pain, I'll be honest with you. As far as training has to be done here or at a gym, okay? But massage, I can take my table somewhere. It's just, it does cost more to do that, because it takes a lot more of my time to do that, and it's a hassle to pack it up and put it together and pack it up again, and you know what I'm saying. So there's a lot more to it. Not to mention gas and all that stuff too. It has to be paid for. So, but I wanted to let you know that is available. And if you live in the Greenville, South Carolina area, you can email me. I'm going to give you my email, okay? The best email to reach me is, is quack, that's QUACK, 7737 at gmail.com. So all together, quack 7737 at gmail.com. Do that, and then I can give you a number, and we'll talk about it. It'd be best just to, if you email me that way, we can end up talking on the phone, discuss what it is that you need. If you have anything specific for training, whatever that you need, or a massage. So there you go. So you can get in touch with me. All right. Thank you so much for your time today and putting up with me. I know this isn't always the most professional thing. I'm not like cutting and coming back and fixing it. And if I need to do that, I guess I will. But I really don't want to do that. And in a lot of ways, you seeing my flaws makes it even more relatable. You can see I'm not just a professional person making video. So, there you go. We'll see. So, like and subscribe. Thanks so much. Y'all have a great day.